land.
The economic problem is probably the most serious problem confronting the Negro community, and I might say the most serious problem confronting poor people generally. And I don't want to be narrow about this, talking only about the black poor in our country, because I must be concerned about Puerto Ricans who are poor, Mexican Americans, American Indians, and Appalachian whites. And we are confronting a major depression in the poor community. And I think the time has come to bring to bear the power of the direct action, the nonviolent direct action movement, on the basic economic conditions that we face all over the country. Nonviolence has been a tremendous force in grappling with the social problem of legal segregation and the syndrome of deprivation surrounding that system. And of course it has been a major force in grappling with the political problem of the denial of the right to vote. But in winning victories like the Civil Rights Bill of '64 and the Voting Rights Bill of 1965 around the issue of segregation and voting rights, we discovered that these legislative strides did very little to improve the lot of the millions of Negroes in the ghettos of the North and in the nation generally. In other words, it did very little to penetrate the lower depths of Negro deprivation in communities all over.
You see, when Dr. King spoke about freedom, he didn't just mean the end of racial discrimination. No, he was talking about the economic freedom of the poor, regardless of race. And when he started pushing for the economic empowerment of the disadvantaged, when he dared to suggest that the poor should have access to the same resources as the wealthy, that's when they decided he had to go. It's no coincidence that Martin Luther King was assassinated at the height of his movement for economic equality. He wasn't just challenging the status quo of racial segregation, he was threatening the very foundation of an economic system that kept the rich, and the poor, struggling. And in a world where power is hoarded by the few, the idea of a united poor class rising up against the system was far too dangerous. Ronald Reagan was right when he said the government isn't here to help us, it's here to help itself. The people in power don't want us to rise. They don't want the poor to unite because they know that once the oppressed stand together, change is inevitable. And they feared that change. The scariest thing for those in power isn't just a single bold voice, it's the potential for that voice to wake up a sleeping giant. Because when people are tired of being walked on, when they've reached their breaking point, they will rise. Even the most fearful among them will rise. This is the world we live in, and it's a sad truth we can't ignore. Martin Luther King didn't die for racial equality alone. He died for economic equality, for the rights of the poor, for the vision of a world where everyone had access to the same opportunities. And that's the truth they never wanted us to know. It's a painful reminder that change